Welcome back to my reviews of the Ubisoft Prince of Persia games. Today, the third and certainly not the least of the series. If you want to see my reviews of the previous games, the links are in the description. This review contains spoilers, you've been warned. The Two Thrones isn't just my favorite game of the Prince of Persia series, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It combines all the good elements of both Sands of Time and Warrior Within, while adding some new things to create its own fresh style. They use the improved fighting style of Warrior Within while implementing the balance between action and the rest the Sand of Time has. There are more puzzles and platform sections than in Warrior Within, and they're more challenging than the ones from Sand of Time. But it doesn't end there. They add all kinds of fun new obstacles for the platforming, the boss battles are creative, secret fountains are important to find if you want a higher chance of beating certain parts of the game, they add new memorable music, and the environment design is easily the best in the trilogy so far. This time around, you're not stuck in one place. You're traveling through the city of Babylon, jumping on the roofs, running through the streets, and climbing on all sorts of stuff. Sure, you're still following a linear path, but it does offer so much more visual variation and it makes the world feel more alive. The prince even comments on the places you visit, in shock of the absence of his people.
Where is kind Asha, who would stand before her stall selling fruits and flowers? Or the errant children, making trouble as all young ones do? Gone. All gone.
A brand new mechanic the Two Thrones introduces is stealth. This time around, instead of just charging at every enemy you see, they give you the option to sneak up on an enemy from behind by using some carefully timed inputs. Each fighting area has a path you need to follow in order to stealth kill everyone, meaning that every potential big fight offers a little puzzle where you need to figure out the right path to stealth kill everyone. Stealth killing is in some cases a necessity, especially on hard mode, because some fights can get rather difficult otherwise. But the thing is, it's entirely optional. If you prefer fighting, you can totally do that. I personally think it's fun to see how far I can get with the stealthy approach. Another remarkable mechanic the Two Thrones adds is when the prince rides a horse and carriage, trying to avoid obstacles and fight enemies. For a game that was released back in 2005, this is surprisingly spectacular and it adds a great bit of variation from the Prince of Persia formula. Plot-wise, The Two Thrones is the best one of the series. The story is about the Vizier making a return, this time succeeding in his plan to gain ultimate power. He imprisons the people of Babylon, kills the Empress of Time, and the prince gets infected by the Sands of Time. Yeah, pretty much everything that can go wrong goes wrong from the get-go. This infection by the Sands creates an alternative form, simply referred to as the Dark Prince. Why does this plot work so well? First of all, Farah makes a return. This time around, she has many more things to say and do. She's tougher, but she's also lighthearted and is capable of dealing with the cynical side the prince has, making her more of a likable character than in the first game. And they have an overall better chemistry. I love the moments where you hear just these two talk. Even when it's just discussing what to do next, there's still plenty of personality and pizzazz to these dialogues. Two Thrones is all about self-reflection, like the bad things the prince has done in Warrior Within and how it affected both his life and the people around him.
Oh, come on now. Did you really expect to find him alive? Even after everything you have experienced, still you hold out hope.
Oh, Father, what have I done?
The Dark Prince isn't just a physical form, but it's also a voice inside the head of the prince. A voice that represents his inner dark side. But also, the Dark Prince is funny. He has this cynical personality and provides plenty of sarcastic commentary on the things you do.
What is your favorite color?
Color?
Shall I repeat the question?
Blue.
Blue? That's not my favorite color.
One of the reasons I love Prince of Persia so much is the dialogue during platform sections. You're not just playing the game, but you're following along with the plot as well, giving you multiple senses of progress at the same time. These internal conversations with the Dark Prince are a prime example of all that. The ending of this game has to be one of my favorite sequences in all the Prince of Persia games. After messing with magic and time so much, the prince gets stuck in a mind-bending, surreal world made up of his memories. This sequence messes with the visuals and the mechanics, disorienting and confusing you, just like how the prince is feeling. This sequence shows that the Dark Prince, while not having a physical form or voice anymore, will always be part of the prince. This is not necessarily a bad thing, since the prince can choose to let the Dark Prince take control. In the end, you can choose between running up the stairs towards Farah or to fight the Dark Prince. Fighting him only leads to the inner dark side, which only makes it worse, and there's no end to it. But choosing to climb the stairs towards Farah is the path to self-acceptance. It creates a memorable and strong ending to the franchise that definitely deserves a big thumbs up. But the Dark Prince isn't just there for the plot, because you can also take his form as a playable character. I've heard very mixed reactions about this though. When you're playing as the Dark Prince, the rules change. He has a chain-like weapon that allows him to use different fighting techniques, and he can even use the chain for platforming, making him a more powerful character than the Prince is. However, when you're playing as the Dark Prince, your health slowly drains over time, and the only way to restore health is by consuming sand. Unlike the Sand Wraith of Warrior Within, your health doesn't stop draining at a certain point. If a fight takes too long or you don't do certain platform sections flawlessly, the Dark Prince will die, which is frustrating and got a lot of players on edge. Personally, I never minded this mechanic because it makes the otherwise generic platforming sections all the more challenging. The times when you get to transform into the Dark Prince are far in between, which prevents it from getting annoying. Also, there are a ton of breakable objects that release sand, so I never felt like playing as the Dark Prince was unfair to the player. If I lost, it was because of my own doing, my lack of skills, not due to an unfair game design. I guess the only part that genuinely has an unfair feeling to it is the last sequence you need to do with the Dark Prince. If you haven't found any fountains, thus don't have increased health, you need to speedrun this part flawlessly in order to win. You can't make even the slightest of mistakes here. If you want to avoid this sudden spike in difficulty, I recommend keeping an eye out for the fountains. If I were to give this game a rating based on the amount of fun I had playing it, it would definitely be a 10 out of 10. With quite some exclamation points even, but even I have to admit this certainly isn't a perfect game. There are a couple of small things that bother me during the playthroughs, like not being able to skip cutscenes or not being able to use subtitles. There are moments where, if you use the rewind button, the dialogue abruptly stops. In those cases, I just restarted at the checkpoint and played a part of the level over again, just so I could hear the entire conversation. In the HD remastered version, there is a mistake at a very important part of the game, namely, when the Dark Prince has left and the Prince is finally in full control. After this scene, you can still hear the Dark Prince comment on the fights for the remainder of the level.
You may not be able to see these creatures, but you can still hear them.
This error completely ruins the moment the Dark Prince has left, because it makes it look like the Dark Prince is still actively present. In the beginning of the review, I stated the boss battles are creative and fun. This doesn't apply to all bosses, however, because the boss fight against the Sand Lady is just repetitive and boring. This fight consists of continuously doing the same platform sections while hitting her a couple of times in between. So no, perfect wouldn't be a word I'd use to describe Two Thrones. But in all honesty, I don't think there is such a thing as a flawless, perfect game. I think it is important that the upsides outweigh the downsides, and in the case of the Two Thrones, they certainly do. For its amazing mix of storytelling, gameplay, difficulty and variation, Two Thrones is one of my favorite games of all time, and I happily replay it, along with the others, once every couple of years.
There's still something I don't understand. How did you really know my name?
Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction. But I have seen the face of time, and I can tell you, they are wrong. Time is an ocean in a storm. You may wonder who I really am, and why I say this. Come, and I will tell you a tale like none you have ever heard.
So, the Sands of Time trilogy has had a nice run. 3 great games released within a 3-year span, which is an incredible accomplishment. But in 2008, a new Prince of Persia was released, a cel-shaded one. This game has received mixed reactions due to the fact that you cannot die, the repetitive gameplay, and the plot seemingly lacking any real progress. Ubisoft wasn't really keen on making a sequel. Since it's not related to the Sands of Time universe, I'm not planning on making a video about this one. As a result, the time-traveling prince instead makes a return in 2010. Is this new game a welcome return to the Sands of Time universe, or a forgettable cash-in? In the next review, I'll talk about the Forgotten Sands.